have up to 60 people at most of these meetings. Sal Lamartina upstairs is sponsoring a street safety event. We have Gary Evelyn from the Boston Police Academy who puts on street safety talks throughout the city. He was in East Boston last night. Had over 100 people tonight. I think we have 35, close to 40 women upstairs. And I believe at 7 o'clock they're going to have a grand meeting with East Boston residents on some of the things that are taking place in East Boston. No, he's going at 7 o'clock in East Boston, Sal. And I believe the mayor will be at that event. So
who will be there?
The mayor. So on behalf of the captain, tonight we have Lieutenant Detective Chuck Wilson. We have Roy Garber on our far right, who's been down here for a long time on the 4 to 12 shift. We believe he does a great job down here with the parkers and the movers, and he does again a great job. We have Teddy Boyle. So again, welcome, and I'm going to turn it over to the captain.
Yeah, it's filming.
I said that. You weren't paying attention.
All right, well, busy. Good evening, everybody. I thought I was going to have 100 here, so I brought out the troops. I have Lieutenant Detective Wilson to my right, which I'm sure everybody knows him growing up. And I brought Roy Garber, who walks Hanover Street, which I hope everybody knows by name. And if you have issues, approach him and let him know what's going on. That's the whole point of him walking consistently, so he gets to know the neighbors and break down those ledge barriers so that people feel comfortable enough to talk to them. Because we can't help anyone if we're not aware of what the issues are. So everybody knows, I know everybody knows Teddy Boyle, all the programs he's done over the years and helped thousands of kids in this neighborhood. And yes,
I apologize to the whole group, but we go back many, many, many years. This is one of our crime watch leaders right here, Wallace Tilford. How many years now?
20.
20 years with the Boston Police Department. He goes around the city and forms neighborhood crime watch group.
Good job. So, anyway, over the last, so we just get right into it. Over the last month, we've had a couple of incidents. One very high profile, which is good. Not that it's good that it happened, but it's good that it became high profile. Because whenever people have information, they know how to deal with the situation. But we have one, a decent A and B, decent assault and battery, a young woman, attacked behind, fallen on the ground and broke. So since then, in response to that, we have basically saturated the area with police officers. Undercover, uniform, code 19s and directed patrols, and so. And I think in response to that, because of our presence, we've had very few incidents. We've had a couple of robberies, 3 robberies. One was actually reported today, so it happened 2 days ago, right on Salem Street. We had another one a few days past, 585 commercial, which really, we're carrying it as a robbery, but it was a two guys got a cab in down on Kenmore Square, and they dropped one kid off in Roxbury. They go to Charlestown, and the kid swipes his card to pay, and the card doesn't take, so he says, drive me over to the North End to the ATM, and I'll give you the money. So when they get to the North End, he decides he's going to rob the cabbie instead. So we have his card swiped out, if that's in fact his card. But, so I know what happened on Commercial Street. I don't think it's a problem that the North End residents should be concerned with. And then there was another one at Princeton Salem. Young woman coming home, 3:45 in the morning. Someone comes up behind her, grabs her bag, and runs away with it. And so she waits an hour. At 4:45, she called the Boston police. We went down there, and at that point, we took a report. We looked around, but there's not much we could do. So, I knew a couple other, I know Nicole Leo keeps us informed with the neighborhood vibrations, and she told me of a couple of incidents. One involving the fish market on Salem Street. The guy stood at the door. I had the lieutenant go down and take a look at, talk to everybody involved. It's one of the known homeless guys. There's two homeless guys. It's the guy who walks around with the fake bird in his shoulder. I don't know if people know him, but you'll see him at, there's generally two of them, but this individual, he was by himself this day, and he stood at the door, yelled in, made some threats, and walked away. So he just kind of, maybe he was off his medication, who knows. But, he didn't, he didn't actually get within striking distance or anything like that. And the liquor store guy knows him. He said that basically the two of them are around all the time. They're basically harmless, but so the lieutenant said when you see him again, call him. You're gonna call the lieutenant. We're gonna talk to him about behaving correctly. And then there was another one that we made an arrest. A young woman working at the Coconuts on Palmetto. Guy went in, made some sexual remarks, made her nervous. She called the police, or the owner of the establishment called the police. We got him around the corner, and we arrested him. He had 4 warrants. But when he said that he went off his medication, and he didn't really mean anything by it. So he is being held though, and the court did tell the victim that when they're going to release him, they'll notify her so that she's aware that he's out there again. But I don't think that. What do you think, Chuck? Well,
I think he might be a veteran who's got some real psychiatric issues. Homeless, probably a Court Street resident, but they'll do a psych eval, they'll hold him for 30 days, and chances are they're going to let him go. I mean, that's typically what happens. But at that point, if he comes around and makes him nervous, then I'll sign a detective to get a restraining order. This way, if he's even standing anywhere near the place, even if he's not being a problem to her, just his mere presence on Palmetto Street will arrest him. They had the restraining orders up until 2 years ago were only effective in the case of a domestic. The non-domestic restraining orders for a toothless tiger, you couldn't make an arrest because it was just a violation. You had to take that person to court. It was a process. You couldn't remove them. Well, they smartened up, and the legislation put some teeth in it. So now you can arrest on a non-domestic restraining order violation. So that gives the police a lot more authority to remove the problem immediately. So that's what I've recommended we do. We had the first case in the state. An anchor from one of the TV channels who was being harassed, was non-intimate partner, non-domestic, and we got a restraining order, and the person was arrested 2 times after, and then finally ceased to persist. Had he not been arrested, just charged, who knows how long it went on for. So it is effective.
So, and the walking, so we do have a permanently assigned walking officers. So Roy Garver is one, and he has a photo what the guy looks like. On the midnight shift, we have a walking officer. So we make sure that these officers get the information so that they're aware of who they need to keep an eye on, how to keep the community safe. So going down the line, so we have the decent A and B, 3 robberies. The aggravated assault is really, it's going to drop to 0 because that's 22 Clinton Street. That's what I'm told by Phil. 22 Clinton Street is not the North End. but it did show up in the statistics. It is the Hard Rock Cafe parking garage, so glad to scratch that one. We had one residential burglary. That was, who was that? I don't.
346 North.
Oh, yeah, the woman, her boyfriend went out. She came back at 8:30. She came back at 3. He came back at 6. Didn't notice anything. At midnight, she went to use her computer, realized it was taken. There was no sign of forced entry. And upon reflection, she did remember that maybe her yoga mat appeared to be have a wet stain or a wet footprint or something. But so we get a call at 10:41 the next day. So that was the one. That was at 346 North Street. And other larcenies, motor vehicles. Other than that, pretty good. You can see now, if you look at the map, just quickly, you can see where everything's occurring. Basically all over the place. So there are no patterns or trends. You can see that on the left side, the actual numbers. If you look to page 2, you can see how they occurred February as opposed to March. I know it's only March 6th, but we had the 2 robberies. And like I said, they're questionable whether they even belong here. And then the last page, you can see the 3-year review in the aggregate. So in 2012, we had same time frame. We had 17 incidents. Last year, same time frame, we had 8. This year, we have 11. So not too.
Question?
Yes.
Actually, I have 3 questions.
Cool.
Is that okay? Absolutely. We'll handle one at a time. Sure, please. Thank you. First question I have, any type of update on the most recent sexual assault?
The one
that led to tonight's
A&B.
self-defense? Yes, I'm sorry.
Right. It's under investigation. It's not a lot. We don't have any cameras, unfortunately. We had a couple of years ago. It's not, I can tell you, it's not related to any other sexual assault because the description is entirely different. And a couple of years ago, the lieutenant, there were some incidents on that street, and he put cameras up there, and after a while, nothing was happening, so they became more and more demand in other parts of the city, so they took them down. So we didn't have any cameras up there. So
Any chance that they could come back?
the cameras,
No matter, regardless of the exact location, just in that period.
Well, I mean, the pole cameras, we draw from the same pool as the rest of the city, and we probably would have to have a couple of incidents isolated within a very close proximity to Unity Street like we did a couple of years back. I'm just giving you a practical answer. We probably would not get the pole cameras back up for a single incident without a clear trend or pattern. Having said that, as the captain stated, this isn't the same person coming back. And the big difference with this particular victim, now, just so you know, we're not the primary investigatory unit. It's a sexual assault unit. They're based out of the Family Justice Center in Brighton. I work closely with them on a regular basis, but the commander there, Judge Giuliano, will tell you that, the incidents they have in East Boston right now are linked together, and a lot of their focus is on that particular rover or attacker there. The case in the North End is a little bit better than it had been, just by the mere fact that the victim was not intoxicated. That makes a big difference. In past sexual assaults, the victim in some cases was so intoxicated she couldn't really say if the person was white or Hispanic, tall or short, old or young, so it was really difficult to pin a pat down. So hopefully that's an isolated incident and won't be repeated, but, the warmer weather's coming. It's actually a little bit unusual to get one in cold weather. Typically, people are bundled up. My concern moving forward would be in the spring.
So we do, like the lieutenant said, the one in East Boston, there were multiple events. We are competing with finite resources for the other city. It's hard to, if one event to justify bringing cameras, the people, homicides and every other thing going on. So, but obviously, if we had another event, then we can. But right now, we're just kind of wait and see. We're investigating. They did get some photos. We're tracking those down. So, I mean, it's not totally without investigative leads, but they're working hard on it. So, you got another question?
Question number 2 of 3. In regards to this, still, you mentioned, and I read this elsewhere before the meeting, of course, that patrols have been stepped up in the north end, including plainclothes, undercover. Is that at all hours, all days of the week, morning, afternoon, night, and for an indefinite
Take
period
it
of
on a
time?
midnight shift. Fewer people, so I don't know if anyone remembers Captain Conley. He always used to say the safest night in Boston, first night, because the good people come out, they flood the area. So there's so many people out during the day and like up to midnight in the North End. Although we're here, but we really try to beef up the, try to fill in the gaps when there's not a lot of people out there, keeping the miscreants undercover, so to speak. So we really stepped that up, but we do have, the answer to the question is yes, we did step it up. We're really focusing on that midnight shift when things are getting quiet, people are sleeping and trying to keep everyone safe at night.
And that's literally on the main streets and the side streets?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're on the weekends, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the walking guy, every night he's working, plus the sector car. And then on the, we have an overlay system. So on top of this, we have the walking beat, kind of like a small area, the north end, and we have the sector car, might encompass the north end and like part of Faneuil Hall, and then the rapid car. So all those cars, all those units are in here. And on top of that, we have on overtime, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, 2 officers in a car in conjunction with the officers that are here with Suffolk University. Although they're working with Suffolk, doesn't mean they're putting blinders on. They're feeling that they can deal with some Suffolk issues. But we really, for a small area, there's a lot of police presence. So
Any chances of Roy's hours changing from the current 4 to midnight to either having the end part extended beyond midnight, or maybe...
He's too old.
Not the answer. And this has nothing to do with
singing
Roy.
voice at midnight.
And it has something to do with Roy. It's just I'm looking at the hours.
No, we have a walking beat from midnight to 7:30 in the North End.
And that's one person or 2?
One person.
That's one person.
Yeah.
Midnight to 7 a.m.?
Well, 11:45 to 7:30. Yeah, we have a walking beat down there, so he picks up the voice. I don't think he sings as well, but.
Here's my last question. Okay, I'm sorry. It's just they all came at the same time. Last question is that 24-year-old guy, Eric Munsell, who's been missing. The last I heard was probably through Matt's website, where I believe the police picked up a cell phone ping indicating he must have been around the Long Wharf Marriott with his phone at some point. But then, if you correct me if I'm wrong, if you know, I believe they said that the water was way too cold. It would be a hazard to have divers search at this point in time. Do you have any type of update? Was that accurate? Or?
No, that's
Okay,
not.
good. That's all.
Three ways to find somebody, right? You have eyewitness accounts, which are, take it as a grain of salt, Somebody said they think they see someone they see you and they think it's Eric Munsell. So you gotta kind of take that with a grain of salt. Cell phone pings, if they ping off of 1 tower or 2 towers, they don't triangulate. They could be off by a 1/10 of a mile. So you gotta take that with a grain of salt. The thing that we like is video. So we pick them up on Broad Street. 3 minutes later, we pick them up on a camera on State and Commercial. 3 minutes later, we pick them up on a camera at 255 State Street, which is the building that the Legal Seafoods is, right across the street from the Marriott, right? Then we don't pick them up anymore. So he's down by either the Marriott or the Aquarium, depending on if he went left or if he went right. Now you have those chains around the Boston Harbor. We had a kid named Eric Losick go in the water 3 years ago, this time of year. His body didn't surface till the spring, the late spring. The water's 30 degrees, the body won't come up for a long time. We put the Boston Police Harbor Unit, the Quincy Police, who volunteered to join, with the State Police. 3 different units out there with ships, with sonar equipment. Divers at the ready. They pick up an image, and they get an image of a human body. Divers are going in the water, doing the images. They went out for 5 or 6 days in a row. We know the current will take a body, unless it's caught up on something, from the Long Wharf area to the Fort Point Channel. So we scoped from the Fort Point Channel, because the body's not going towards Charlestown, it's going south. That's just the way the tide will take it, the current will take it. So we scoped from Fort Point all the way to the Long Wharf with no success. We continue to do it periodically. Yeah. So Captain just said they did it again the other day. So they're doing it. They were doing it every day in a row, and then maybe they did it 3 days later, then 2 days later. But I braced the family for the inevitable. This young man is going to come up sometime in the late spring.
That's what I asked, they did it Tuesday, so I asked them, what's the cold water effect? They said, once the water starts to warm up and the gases in the bodies, it'll start to decompose and then they'll rise. But right now, there's no decomposition occurring, so.
You know, I just want to say this aside thing. We want to talk about fate, right? So now I send my detectives down day and night. It's cold at night, it's dark. There's really, in the summer, tons of people, right? In the winter, behind the Marriott, it's cold. Those chains are about 6 inches off the ground. They're way too low. We're working with the BRA and the Parks and Rec to raise them, okay? But it is what it is. They're down very low. So anybody not paying attention, drunk or not, could trip over that chain, propel themselves forward, and end up in the water. So I send my detectives down there. So they go in the day, they look around, they look at the boats just in case he landed in a boat, who knows. They did the best they could. They go back the next day. Well, 3 nights later, one of my detectives at 11 p.m. goes down there, 12 degrees out, freezing. He goes down there, shines the light, looking in the water. He hears somebody groaning. Another kid, drunk, fell in. Now, 12 minutes is about the amount of time you're going to last in that water. So that kid had to go in the water within 12 minutes of Tommy Leahy pulling up, getting out of his car, walking to behind the Marriott, and putting his light in the water. We pulled him out. He went into a coma. 2 days later, all his health signs came back. He was all stabilized. They took the tubes out and they, revived him, and he's fine now.
That literally just happened a couple weeks ago, right?
That happened. Yep, that happened like 3 days after Eric Munsell was reported this. That's what I told the father. That's what I told the dad. I told the dad, your son needs down to save his kid's life, because there's no way in hell Tommy Leahy would have been down at 11 o'clock at night at 12-degree weather, shining a light to their Boston Harbor. I can tell you right now. How was anybody else going to be down there? He was a cook. He's a cook or a dishwasher in one of the North End restaurants, and he just had too much to drink, and he fell in. I think he lived in East Boston, so I think he bypassed the aquarium MBTA and kept walking. It's that simple. No, that complicated. Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Yes, I had read that Eric was tossed out of the, wherever he was, out of the clothes.
Yes.
Were the bouncers charged with anything? That seems
They-
awful to throw someone out in that cold weather without.
We
their
cited the bar for with the license premise violation. It's not a criminal charge, it's an administrative violation. The board will hear it in City Hall. The hearing's coming up soon. Obviously, there's civil litigation involved, but there is no criminal culpability for something like that. But you know what? Let's use our common sense. So I was asked or offered to speak on March 11th in South Boston. They're going to have a meeting with, I don't know, maybe 100 or 150 licensed premise owners in anticipation of the St. Patrick's Day events, which obviously affect us in the North End as well as South Boston, right, and Faneuil Hall. So a lot of the bar owners will be actually bar owners from this district. And my hope is to impress on them that if you have someone who's incapacitated, there's a difference between drunk and incapacitated. This kid was incapacitated. He didn't know where he was stumbling around, not just had a couple in him. That you call the police, and that if we have to write a violation, but that the licensing board, because they called, not take direct serious action. Because what it is, it comes down to two choices. Choice one, if you're a bar owner, you don't want the cops in there writing you up. You're throwing someone out who's shit-faced, his friends aren't around, you're gonna let them go. If you call the police, you're gonna get a violation. So maybe 1 in 100 times this kid ends up hit by a car, robbed and killed, or ends up in the Boston Harbor. Or you call the police and say, this guy's got nobody to take him home, we PC him, maybe he's not happy, maybe he fights us, but he lives, he goes in a cell for 4 hours, and then we let him go, and then we get him home then. As far as I'm concerned, I don't really care too much about writing violations if it'll mean saving one kid's life. So this is what we're trying to do. It kind of goes against our grain because we enforce laws and rules, and I'm kind of asking that maybe we don't enforce it to the point where they're afraid to call us, like with the Molly drugs. Get somebody strung out on Molly drugs, call us. Don't worry about the violations, just call us.
The name of the establishment was Market, correct?
A market bar, yes.
I thought that, because I bartended, I had to take a test, and that if someone came in the establishment drunk, that we were responsible.
Yes.
That's what it told us on the test.
Yes.
To make sure that that person either took a cab home, or if we had to call the police and make sure that they were okay. So why is it that, if we're taking this test and they're telling us this, why isn't that enforced?
Well, again, you have,
Renegade, and that's what you're saying.
yeah, exactly, thank you, Catherine. We didn't charge the bar with over-serving because our early investigation showed that this was this boy's 24th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So they were drinking before they even went out. So what I did was I charged them with an intoxicated person on the premises. So technically, they didn't even have to serve them a drink.
Right.
They let them in, now you're responsible for them.
Right.
We also charged them, again, this isn't criminally, this is administratively, we charged them with failing to render first aid, because it's the responsibility of the place to offer first aid, whether you're sick, drunk, or whatever the
That's
case
what
may
we're
be.
told. We're supposed to-
Fell and hurt yourself.
Right.
You can't just push them out of the bar. But these people, and not all of them, there's some certain nightclubs that have a reputation for wanting to push their problems out the door and then do one of these. Oh, he wasn't in here, it wasn't us. And it gives me fits, to be honest with you. But as far as the enforcement goes, I have 8 detectives at night. Sometimes I hire 2 or 3 to go to like 3 in the morning. And we have, how many licensed premises on the district, Captain? 200 and something? 200 and something licensed premises. It's like going down to Revere Beach with a Dixie cup.
So they only get a
Nothing stopped at
citation.
that. Correct.
I'm glad seems to be a lot of interest in that. I just want to take a moment to publicly thank Lieutenant Detective Wilson because he personally taken this case on. He's met with the family. He's creating new initiatives to prevent it from happening in the future. He's met with the city councilors, president. He's taken the family around for multiple days. So he's really taken this personal. So I just want to thank you for that.
No, I understand it. I'm just saying, when I took this test, I was under the impression that I was responsible for that person, or
Right.
I was gonna get either fined or arrested. That's how they make it seem when you take the test.
No, right, there's no,
That's what I'm saying.
you would not be arrested, you know, where you work would be violated, which comes with a fine, like they
Okay,
shut
that's
you
what I
down
meant,
or
yeah.
something like that.
The owner would be held
The owner, not you, the
Okay.
owner. But, you know, right now, what this comes down to is a huge liability issue for the club. There is no fear of, you know, someone being arrested, like with the fire in Rhode Island, where people went to jail for that, you
Right.
know, the station nightclub in Rhode Island. So, but, you know, Losick, this kid Gene Losick, 2 years earlier, drunk, went in the, fell in the ocean. This poor guy, Munsell, we're gonna recover his body at some point. And this other guy that was saved by unbelievable miracle, if you believe in miracles, this is one. There's 3 right there, and we had a kid that came out of the garden, had too much to drink, went into the Charles River, and his body days later. I mean, this is all the last 3 or 4 years, this isn't like,
There's been a few.
there's been a few.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah, yeah.
I think the one thing that the Lieutenant Detective Wilson did make quite an observation of when you go down, it's very picturesque when you get down Christopher Columbus Park and you go over towards Tears and you get towards the museum. And myself and the captain did a Code 19 down there about a week and a half ago. And those locks that we're talking about, are everybody familiar with these locks where it's the chain when you think, remember I went to sit on one of the holes and I literally almost fell backwards into the water. So the point being, whether you're young or older, whether you get grandkids or your own kids, you truly have to pay attention to that, because beyond those locks, if you were to tumble forward or just kind of, you know, you can almost go back and forth like a swing. The only thing after that is the ocean. It's not even like you're in a little spot. You're out in the middle of the ocean. You know, you're in the ocean. So that's something that they are looking at with the BRA, because the BRA really has control of that property. And so I think that it's really wise to take a look at that and change that, whether it become a fence line or just something, another picturesque type of thing, but something that would prevent people from falling into the water. As we all know, there's thousands of people that come into the city tourists. We had that Navy gentleman, you know, people fall in late at night and you don't even know. Yeah.
They fell in the summer.
Yeah.
I understand that families should get water and sue the bar owner themselves.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Non-criminal, but whatever.
Yeah, no, it would have nothing to do with us. We run our investigation in a silo. You know, anything that comes out of litigation, the family, through their attorney, can get through freedom of information. We try not to cross the line. We try to stay in a silo and not get involved in litigation. But, you know, I'm aware that the family is looking to pursue that avenue.
On the topic of alcohol, Sergeant Lynn, I know we talked about your strong opinion. It was at the last meeting, you said Chinatown, for example, in particular, has had the police pull into the community process when it comes to an applicant that wants to amend, you know, change a liquor license. That is something that I believe rather shortly, our neighborhood council will be discussing to see if there's a way to do it.
You don't have to believe, I got a note from your president, and you'll have to discuss it.
Okay, I didn't know he got in touch with you.
And just with that too, we did receive calls and regarding John Boyd's attendance.
Yeah, the Derby days, they were looking to change the conditions of their license to include a bar, but they were still going to serve food, but it was a change in license, and there were enough residents who lived close by that were opposed, and we, as a rule, Captain Hassan,
As a rule, I
were dogged to
oppose any
oppose that.
establishment that's going to increase or change their license, especially when it involves hard liquor. I mean, beer and wine, I don't mind so much, but kind of remain silent, but anything that's gonna have the potential of drunks out on the sidewalk, smoking cigarettes, creating havoc, I'm not gonna approve it, because I know the first time something happens, they're gonna say, well, you approved it. And something happens when alcohol's involved. In my experience in 26 years, that things happen. So it may not be one incident, but it could be a big incident, and it'll be pointing their finger at me, saying, "You approved it."
I'm not taking it away from you. It's great, but every captain before you has done the same thing.
Yeah.
For years and years and years.
That's right.
So just to get the audience here, you know, without trying to put Lieutenant Detective Wilson too much on the spot, but could you maybe just explain it a little more on, you know, before the licensed premises, some of our downtown clubs, sometimes they get shut down for weeks or a month, or it might be just a day, it might be a day during the week. How does Patricia Malone progressively get to a point where they might shut somebody down for a day? Is it based on the amount of violations, based on the seriousness of the violations? That question comes up from time to time.
Well, the answer is yes to both, actually, Tom, because, you know, we violate, and, you know, I don't really like the word violation because it really has a negative connotation. What we're basically doing is we're alerting the boards. Now, there's two boards, an entertainment board and a liquor board, two separate boards located at City Hall. And what we're doing is we're notifying the boards that there was an issue on the premises. Now, often, somebody puts their pocketbook down to dance, they come back, the pocketbook's gone. That's a larceny, right? We'll violate them. Those typically don't go before hearings, but if there was enough of them over a period of time, clearly there's a problem and we need to address it, so they would go. If there's someplace that never really had a lot of problems, but there was a stabbing inside, they can bet your keister they're going to be at the licensing board to answer to as to what happened. What I try to explain, sometimes painstakingly, to licensed premises, especially ones that have promoters, they seem to draw more violent crowds because the promoters are based on the door. They don't care who they get. They send out a blast. They bring people in from different places. They don't always get along, and the fights stop. And sometimes they get really bad, and not so much in the North End, but I'm talking more the theater district and even Faneuil Hall to a degree. They become ultra violent, shots fired and stabbings and everything else. And sometimes that happens, and they cooperate. You know, these are the guys that did it. We put in card readers, we got video. Then there's other places the same thing happens, and they mopped up the crime scene before I got there, and they said it didn't happen in here. I go bananas, I go crazy. You know, so there's the differences there. So everybody's going to go before the licensing board, but you know, some people go before the licensing board and they cooperate with the police. They may be dealt with. Maybe they get no suspension on one day, but somebody who's, I'm testifying, is actually obstructing justice for the same exact scenario, that might be a longer period of time. So the idea is to get these places to cooperate because we're partners in the community, but we're also partners with, you know, nightclubs and commercial properties. I mean, they're part of the city of Boston, they're part of District 1.
But even to get one day off is very harsh, very seldom does that happen. So mainly they just talk to them and issue a warning, don't let it happen again. Most, I would say 85 to 90, I don't know.
Yeah.
Percentage.
Yeah.
So for the restaurants that might have the windows open after 11 or music after 11, or if they're serving, say, after closing, or if there's the crowd still in there, more than likely they would be subject to fines.
I would say it would be more of a fine than a closure, my opinion. Now, there's not just my detectives, there's a couple of detectives out of City Hall. They don't work for me. And they work for the licensing board, but they're Boston Police detectives. And they do a very, very good job. They cover the whole city, but they have a big presence on District 1. And they're concerned more with administrative issues that I'm less concerned with. So if they go in and the exit lights aren't lit, they'll write a citation. Me, I'm going in there because something happened in there. Like, something drew me to that place. I just didn't stumble in for no reason and saw something. So there's the difference there. So like, noise or something like that, a complaint made by a resident to the licensing board, they would probably be the ones that showed up and issued a violation, where we would respond to a fight or stabbing or a shooting.
Any other questions about it?
There was something you want to make an announcement about, the meeting?
The next April meeting, this place is being used, so we're going to be having a meeting. The longest for about a week and a half.
Before everybody leaves, once again, my name is Wallace Tilford. I'm with the Boston Police Neighborhood Watch Unit. And like Sean said, I've been around a long time. I have whistles for you, emergency whistles to carry on your keychain, okay? I have them up here. I want to make sure everybody gets one before they leave. Please don't give them to the kids, okay? And the purpose of the whistle is, we can't give you guns or knives, but we can give you whistles. If you hear somebody in the street blowing a whistle, somebody's in trouble. Somebody's in trouble. Don't run outside to see what's going on. Call 911. Okay, that's all we ask you to do. Now, there's some sheets up here that you can pick up. Suspect description forms. One side is in English, one side is in Spanish. All right? If you see something and you think we can use this information, please get it to us. One of the things I'm going to tell you about this sheet, you're not going to remember half of the things that the person has on, okay? But one thing I can tell you, you should remember, what kind of shoes he has. Look at me. Okay? If you gave somebody a description, okay, he's a tall guy, I don't know if he's Dominican, I don't know if he's Haitian, I don't know what he was, but he had on some shoes that were glowing. Hello? When people do things and they're running, they'll discard a coat, a hat, you know, and if they get inside, they'll take, change the pants, but guess what? They will, for the most part, keep the same shoes on, especially if it's sneakers. Okay, so just kind of remember that. What else do I have? These handouts take these as a community alert about cell phone robberies. Okay? People walking down the street, I call it palm reading. Walking, talking, not paying attention to anything. Okay? Kids are snatching phones left and right. You ride the bus, you ride the T, don't sit by the door on your phone, because there's going to be one kid there and he's going to wait for you to get into a deep conversation, and when the door's open, he's going to snatch your phone and jump off. It's done all the time. Do you know about Crime Stoppers? Crime Stoppers is an anonymous tip line. Anonymous. It's not 911. It's an anonymous tip line. We don't want to know who you are, where you are. If you have a tip, you want to get to the police, use the tip line. Okay? There's an actual reward if your tip helps solve a crime. Okay? This, and the whistles. Please, before you leave, come get a whistle from me. Artie was upstairs and I gave the whistles to the people in the self-defense class, so they have them. Sir.
I go to the store here. Can I get a bunch of whistles and I give them to my customers?
That's fine with us.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah.
That's because the store's been running all the time.
No.
One thing, how are we on St. Patty's Day?
Well, I was just gonna bring that up. Yeah, so,
I don't know how long.
I know the concern of St. Patrick's Day was brought to my attention by contacting the community, Lieutenant Detective Wilson. So I told the BFS and we're going to have on that day, we're also having at the Boston Garden the school board hockey tournament, for which that brings thousands of suburbanites into the neighborhood. Young kids, high school kids, they want to drink. Come to the North End, over by the pool. So we're going to really try to crack down on that crew. But the good news is the 17th is on a Monday this year. Last year it all coincided, but
I know, because it was on the weekend, but we're still kind of into the weekend leading up to the Monday, so everybody's going to be out partying Saturday night,
yeah.
Sunday
Well,
night.
we have a couple of pub crawls, lieutenants all over on Saturday, 2 Saturdays, the 8th and the 15th. So on the 8th is going to be 5,000 drunks problem between Faneuil Hall and the North Station, so the sergeant's gonna, we're gonna talk to some of the bar owners tomorrow and let some people out, try to keep them under control.
Real quick, I wanted to just give out my personal contact info if anyone has any questions, or obviously this is not to take the place of calling 911 or even maybe calling Sergeant Lima or the captain or emailing. But if there's any concerns that I can field and I can kind of feed them to Sergeant Lima in between our monthly meetings rather than waiting 30 days till the next meeting to then bring it up. My cell phone number is 617-416-6131. That's probably the best way to reach me. David Marks, M-A-R.
That's the best way to go. Don't, if you have a problem, don't wait till the next meeting. Call them, let them deal with it. The closer to the incident, the more that it occurs, the more effective we are. So call us, we'll deal with it right away. Then you don't stew for 30 days saying, these cops never show up when we need them. And, you know, if we don't know about it, we can't help you. So give us a call, we'll help you. Do the best we can. There you go. Okay.
Okay, you're on.